Hi folks, hope you're okay today. It's good to see you. Now, we're looking at this book by David Fountain, and he quotes on page 7. He's a Muslim writer. Some Christians claim that the word Evangelion has its roots in the Hebrew language. However, this is refuted by Frederick Kittel, where it states in the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament, Evangelion appears to be a loan word introduced into Judaism to describe the New Testament gospel. Interesting, he doesn't put a footnote, he doesn't give us the actual page number. I've just gone to the dictionary. So this is a Muslim scholar. This is Frederick Kittel's dictionary, and we're sorry about this. Sorry about this, I just had it for a second, I just lost it. Sorry about this. Okay, yeah, we've got it here. Okay, so I'll just read that again. Some Christians claim that the word Evangelion has its roots in the Hebrew language. However, this is refuted by Frederick Kittel, where it states that the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament, Evangelion appears to be a loan word introduced into Judaism to describe the New Testament gospel. This is what the Muslim scholar has said, okay? So I'm on page 269 of Frederick Kittel's dictionary, okay? And this is what I read. Evangelion outside the New Testament. Basora in the Old Testament. The noun, much less common than the verb, occurs only 6 times in the Old Testament and means good news. 2 Samuel 18:20, 25, 27, 2 Kings 7:9, and the reward for good news, 2 Samuel 4:10, 18:22. The spoken word is equated with its contents. Bad news brings sorrow and good news joy. The bearer of bad news is thus guilty and may be punished for it, 2 Samuel 1:15-16, while the bearer of good news is rewarded. The use in the Old Testament is purely secular, okay? But there was an Old Testament use of the word, which he said there was no Old Testament use. And this is page 269 of his dictionary. Evangelion among the Greeks, this word is an adjective as well as a noun and means what is proper to an evangelos, either good news or the reward for it. The term becomes a technical one for news of victory. A whole ritual surrounds the coming of the messenger who bears this news. Decking his spear with laurels and crowning his head, sacrifices are also offered when the news comes. The temples are garnered, and Injeel is held, and the offerings are crowned. Good fortune is contained in the words, hence the reward for the messenger. The first messenger receives a higher reward. A dilatory message may be punished. Yet since lying reports circulate, rewards are given only after verification. And Evangelion can also be an oracular saying. Thanksgiving are offered for such an Evangelion. Though when the Ephesians do not believe an oracle of Apollonius, he orders them to postpone the sacrifice until what he has said comes to pass. Evangelion is particularly important in the emperor cult. The emperor is a divine ruler who controls nature, dispenses healing, serves as a protective god, and brings good fortune. His birth being accompanied by cosmic signs. Imperial messages then are joyous ones, since what he says is a divine act implying good and salvation. The first Evangelion is news of his birth, then his coming of age, then his ascension. Offerings and yearly festival celebrates the new and more hopeful era that dawns with him. His ascension to the throne is a gospel for his subjects. The imperial Evangelion is like that of the New Testament as a Near Eastern source, but to the many imperial messages, the New Testament opposes the one gospel, and to the many accessions, the one proclamation of God's kingdom. Again, the New Testament may use familiar language, but it associates it with the scandal of the cross. So if you turn to 1 Corinthians 1:17, 1 Corinthians 1:17, for Christ sent me not to baptize, but to preach the gospel, not with wisdom of words, lest the cross of Christ should be made of none effect. So, you know, what he's saying here is the surrounding ancient culture actually uses the word gospel for the emperor, for their religious festivals in their temples, but the New Testament takes the word and uses the word gospel and associates it with the cross, and has a different context but similar language. Penitence and judgment, so that it must have seemed ironical to some. Caesar and Christ confront one another. They have much in common, for both claim to be gospel, but they belong to different worlds. The Septuagint and Josephus. The Septuagint does not have Evangelion in the singular. In the plural, the word occurs only in 2 Samuel 4:10, and reward for good news is used in 2 Samuel 18:22. This term is rare, and its distinction between Evangelion is not found elsewhere. The New Testament use Evangelion clearly does not derive from the Septuagint, since the New Testament never has either the plural or the sense of reward. Philo does not use the noun, but Josephus has Evangelia to Evangelion and to Ingelia to glad tidings, especially in connection with the emperor cult. Rabbinic Judaism. This does not help much regarding the noun. The rabbis use the term for good news or sometimes sad news, and it may have a religious sense, but they do not employ it for eschatological good news. The reason seems to be that while they expect the eschatological act, and the messenger announces it, the message as such is not a new one, and hence it is not important. The stress on the act is significant, however, since it influenced the New Testament understanding of Evangelion as denoting action as well as content, which could be most unusual in Greek. The fact that Evangelion seems to be a loan word to describe the New Testament gospel opens as such a malicious punning does not prove the contrary, for Palestine Judaism was largely bilingual. So we'll stop there, and we're going to continue our word study on this word gospel. But what we can see is this Islamic writer gives a very simplistic, he doesn't give any scholarly source, he doesn't give us the page number. He's misrepresenting what Frederick Kittel has said. He said a lot more things than what this guy has represented it. And the other thing, that when we're looking at the word Injeel, the word gospel, and the Greek especially Evangelion, and look at the various meanings, what we're seeing in the general culture is not, the meaning is not just a revelation. There's a lot more to it than actually this Muslim scholar is telling you.